Escalating tensions in Eastern Europe as the mayor of Ukraine's second biggest city shot in the back. This is after military observers captured by pro-Russian separatists in Ukraine were paraded before the media at a news conference by armed men wearing camouflage fatigues and black balaclavas. Now, we heard before the break from Hannah, Canada announced more economic sanctions against 9 Russians, 2 Russian companies today. Now we've got the names. They include members of President Vladimir Putin's inner circle, including politicians, businessmen, and key advisors. You heard what Barack Obama said. Canada also has some sanctions today, and Canada, we know, is sending 6 CF-18s to the region. Now we know where they're going to be based. Will economic sanctions and travel bans work, and will a NATO military operation in the region stabilize the conflict? Where is all this heading? Let's get some MPs on this. In the foyer of the House, James Bezan, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Defence, is here. Jack Harris, the NDP Defence Critic, and Joyce Murray, the Liberal Defence Critic. Thanks for being here, all of you. Mr. Bezan, tell us about the targeted sanctions. What effect do you hope they have?
Well, we're hoping that the announcement made this morning by Prime Minister Harper to target 9 more individuals and 2 banks will start again trying to convince President Putin and the Kremlin that they have to de-escalate. They have to honor their commitments that they signed on to with the Geneva Accord just a couple of weeks ago, and they have to really reach out and ensure that the pro-Russian separatists, that their own militia and special forces that are in Ukraine, as well as their continued annexation and occupation of Crimea, are resolved. And they have to honor that accord and pull out of Ukraine.
You and I both know that some people say that's not worth the paper it's written on. Can you just also outline the National Defense Minister, Mr. Nicholson, said the 6 CF-18s will be sent to Romania to support NATO on air policing and training missions. What does air policing mean? Could they have a face-off with Russian jets along the Ukraine border?
Only if Russian jets are invading NATO territory. So we will stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine, as we've said right from the beginning. But we want to make sure that our assets were put in a strategic location. NATO made the recommendation that we be positioned in Romania. As we know, the United States have their fighter jets in Poland. And we're beefing up air surveillance in the region, particularly in former Soviet states, which Romania and Poland are.
Mr. Harris, what's your reaction to the sanctions and the fact that now the details that we've learned about the CF-18s in Romania and what this is supposed to accomplish?
Well, I think that the sanctions are gradated and going up in time and intensity, and that's appropriate to make sure Mr. Putin and the Russians know that we're serious about this and that a heavy price will be paid, and as it gets higher if they don't cooperate. We do have an agreement, and you say it's not what the paper is written on, but it's a very important step to say that they're prepared to de-escalate. There's also talk about greater autonomy for some of these areas, so there's a diplomatic front for this as well, and I'd like to see some more talk about that too. But obviously, we want the message from Moscow to be to these separatists that they're not going to get the support from Moscow that they hope to get. On the fighter jets, they're part of air policing. Essentially, the Baltic air policing of NATO is providing support to Lithuania, Latvia, and these states who are bordered with the Ukraine, who don't have any air support of their own, and this is basically convincing them that NATO does care about their stability and security and integrity, and that it will be doing that. I think that's the role. As I think James pointed out, this is not about going into the Ukraine. This is about ensuring our partners in NATO that we're serious about their defense.
Border Russia, some of those states. Joyce Murray, your reaction, what you think Canada has done, and then where you think this is headed.
Well, let me start with the second one first. What we all want to see this headed towards is a peaceful resolution, because we know the states in that area are very intertwined economically as well as demographically, and so a peaceful resolution is in all states' interest. At this point, what Mr. Putin of Russia has done is completely unacceptable, and so that's why the importance of sanctions, but also to help stabilize the region is why the NATO NATO called on Canada to partner by deploying these CF-18s, and I think that's important to reassure some of the Eastern European countries that are nervous right now that their security and their stability are a concern of all of their NATO partners. So it's important that we're doing that.
Just as a last thing, Mr. Bezan, the shooting in the back of this Ukrainian mayor, can you give us any early reaction what that could be? Obviously people are fearing that this could be the spark that escalates the violence.
Well, it's not the first attack on a political leader in Ukraine. We know that there's been at least one member of parliament that has been assassinated, and there are signs that he was tortured first. So this is continuing to get more gruesome and worrisome at the same time. And there has been some appropriate measures taken by the Ukrainian government, and we're still very concerned that we are hearing more about the anti-Semitism by the pro-Russian forces, and in Crimea it was reported today that the Roma are also being targeted now by Russian occupiers in Crimea.
But I don't think. I mean, we remember the First World War and the assassination of the Grand Duke of Austria. We don't want to see sparks, and we shouldn't be assuming that this is the work of a sock puppet of Mr. Putin. This is something that's going on. We need to see de-escalation. We need to use a carrot and a stick with Russia when we're dealing with this, and we have to look at there's other aspects to this deal that was made on the day before Good Friday. So we've got to push the diplomatic efforts and do everything we can to ensure that there's both a show of strength, but saber rattling is not good enough. We have to have a show of that we care about the people that we're supporting, but we also have that there's a benefit to Russia to cooperate in this de-escalation.
The unfortunate part is Russia hasn't denounced
Evan,
any of those actions.
I wanted to link this to some other news, recent news, which is that the report on the F-35s is not being made public, and I just want to express concern as we send these CF-18s to Eastern Europe. CF-18s, some of them will be taken out of service in less than 3 years, and there has been a consecutive mismanagement of the procurement of a replacement for the CF-18s, and we have to fix that.
Joyce.
All right, listen, it's a legitimate topic. I want to just focus on the Ukraine, although you've raised a good topic on the F-35, which we'll be picking up on, but I got to leave it there on Ukraine, and we'll watch out on that, although Ms. Murray, if you've got concerns about the safety of those CF-18s, we'll pick up on that later, though. James Bezan, Jack Harris, and Joyce Murray, thanks for that today.